And it really gives me so much pleasure to introduce our next guest. She's a woman that I'm constantly in awe of. She may grow tired of hearing me say it, I'm sure. But she is truly remarkable and a formidable human being, and you have a spine of tungsten steel. She is the president of SAPOA, and at the close of her term, I know she's divined so many important insights over the last few years that she is going to share with you now. She's a self-made woman, a business pioneer, the founder and CEO of Ipeleng Investment Holdings. It is a pleasure and a privilege to welcome Mrs. Ipeleng Mkhari, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, SAPOA past presidents, SAPOA President-elect, Mr. David Green, to the board and national councillors, to our CEO, Neil Gopal, to captains of industry. I greet you all and I say, Nda. We have a vendor president, ladies and gentlemen, South Africans, Nda. Molweni, because we're in Cape Town. So, a special word of gratitude to our principal sponsor, Glad Africa, and all the sponsors for their valuable contribution in making this convention possible. To all our speakers, our very special guests who are here and who will be joining us, members of the media and delegates, we acknowledge your presence. It really is lovely having you here with us, and it really is an honor for me to be standing here in front of you once again. My role today is simply to reflect and account to you as members on what we've been doing for the last year and as a board, but also I think just to ponder a bit on our status as a country. And I just want to thank you, Peter, for your words. I think that your focus and importance on governance and a corrupt-free leadership status cannot be undermined in our country. I think that one of the things that we're challenged with, as I said earlier, is that seeds of growth cannot be planted in soil that is infested with pesticide. It's impossible. Whether you're a farmer or a property player, you can't do it. And so we're here to really talk about how we achieve this as an industry, but more importantly on behalf of South African Incorporated. I'm certainly an optimist, and I think that optimism and realism have to be common bedfellows. Otherwise, as our previous speaker has just said, you are not able to actually move forward if you don't have an ability to mix the two. So we've got a few slides that we'll share with you as we go through. Exactly a year ago, I stood before you with the daunting task of leading this very incredible body of property magnates, seasoned professionals and thought leaders of our body, of our industry, cognizant of the growing expectations of all of our expectations in our esteemed association. It has been, colleagues, a very fast-paced tenure, packed with many events and engagements. Like most SAPOA presidents before me, my term kicked off immediately after my inauguration with a visit to Burma International Conference in San Antonio with Neil Gopal, our CEO. It was very refreshing to see, I think, and very important for us to understand that SAPOA has maintained strong contact with Burma and remains very involved internationally. It brought home to me that as much as SAPOA is a South African-based association, we really do reach out to international organizations of similar interest, which is very important to see, particularly in these times. As an industry body, our ultimate goal is to build new international networks and strengthening existing ones, to maintain SAPOA's position as an internationally acknowledged leading property authority in Africa. Look, soon after those visits, our members visited regions where all of our members are located to gain an understanding of the obstacles that developers, landlords, managers, and property stakeholders are facing around the country. And there are a myriad of issues that we are all facing. Coupled with these visits were engagements with the executive mayors of a number of municipalities, some of whom have remained in office whilst others not. During the last year, we interacted with several mayors and hosted a few mayoral dinners and meetings, amongst others, particularly mayors where we have not been before. So executive mayors of Polokwane, Tshwane, the city of Bombela, Nelson Mandela Bay, Johannesburg, and obviously eThekwini. I'm sure that you're very well aware that there's a real concern in the industry about the impact that mismanaged and dysfunctional municipalities are having on our industry. Taking back what we've learned from all of these visits, we need to see how and why municipalities aren't working. We've brought these issues to the attention of our Deputy Minister of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs, Minister Andries Nel, who attended the SAPOA board meeting in November of last year on partnering with the commercial property industry towards the improvement of the country. And as part of SAPOA's advocacy initiatives, it remains vital that we continue to establish important links with leadership of various municipalities and national government. The parties have taken cognizance of the current challenges that pertain to municipalities and urban development and have agreed that there is an urgent need to have a collaborative effort in finding amiable solutions. These discussions have culminated in the signing of an MOU between our parties, ourselves and the Department of Traditional Affairs and Corporate Governance, aimed at ensuring ongoing exchange, greater alignment, confidence and consultation between public and private sectors. Another very burning issue close to my heart, and which formed a core focus during my year in the tenure, is the issues not only of the mismanagement of municipalities, but I think something that hits us every day as property players, and that is the municipalities charging higher than normal rates and taxes. The escalation of higher taxation and its correlation to service delivery, skills and governance are very real issues and are critically important to having municipalities working properly. Here too, we've been engaging COCTA to connect the dots with them. Our aim here is to ensure that we improve stakeholder relations between SAPOA and COCTA in order to protect our members' interests while focusing still on service delivery. Rising municipal rates and taxes is a hot-button issue, one that negatively affects not only operating costs and gross rentals, but also makes demand on property management resources. It has been the second fastest growing operating cost item, as you would know, for property owners and investors since 2007, with a compound annual growth rate of 9.7%. In fact, only electricity costs have risen at a higher pace, which is really quite scary. Over the last decade, rates and taxes have consistently increased at a faster rate than inflation and has increasingly come under the microscope as landlords focus on preserving their net income in a very challenging trading environment. Rising operating costs threaten the sustainability of net returns across the spectrum of commercial and industrial property investment. Since the sustainability of the property sector is a key focus of SAPOA, we have been very vocal in challenging the basis and consistency of municipal rates charged to our members. We acknowledge that rates are necessary to fund municipal service delivery and outputs, but these need to be levied correctly. Our constitution and laws are clear that rates and taxes must be levied in a just and equitable way, and this should be done accurately, determining the values of property. So, as an industry body, we are committed to ensuring that rates are being levied from a correct base and not being overcharged. We believe this is essential for further an enabling environment for business and the commercial property sector in South Africa, and to help ensure the sustainability of our economy. Advocating for and improving service delivery in one municipality will influence every single member. So as we succeed in one, we can take similar arguments to others. The long-term improvement as a result will have a positive outcome for the rest of the country. So our conversations with COCTA leadership have clearly articulated the direct correlation between investment in South Africa, which our president has been so dearly seeking and driving for, and the requirement for improved resources and infrastructure. This tenure also coincided with a number of national developments, including the ongoing land expropriation debate without compensation. We as SAPOA have submitted our opinions and suggestions on expropriation without compensation. As the voice of commercial property, we recognize the importance and critical necessity to address land reform and restitution in our country. The drive to retain and attract local and foreign investors, however, requires policy certainty, and to this end, we will continue to advocate for same. President Ramaphosa has assured investors, in fact, that looking for clarity, President Cyril Ramaphosa has assured investors looking for clarity and certainty that private property rights would not be put at risk, but has stressed that government was looking for a fully integrated solution with participation from all sectors, which will lead to something positive for South Africa. The reality is that the implementation of the outcome of EWC will take a long time, ladies and gentlemen, and perhaps decades or more. But it is something that you as property owners and investors can be certain of is receiving top priority at the SAPOA board level. The very troubling, violent disruptions of construction sites has equally received our attention and advocacy. We've interacted quite intimately with the KwaZulu-Natal Growth Initiative team to assess possible solutions for our members and provincial leadership in other regions of the country. But arguably, the biggest national development this year was the recent and very closely contested 6th democratic national election in South Africa, which did have the potential of affecting our spheres of business across the country. Remaining true to its vision of being South Africa's nationally accepted leading property association, SAPOA has actively and responsibly represented, protected, and advanced its members' commercial interests within the industry, and we continue to provide tangible deliverables to our stakeholders, which safeguard capital investment and industry growth. It is this core message that myself and our board and our CEO, Neil Gopal, have taken to government during all of our interactions with them at local, provincial, and national level. It is important that SAPOAs understand that this is at the epicenter of our country's economic growth. You are major contributors to job creation, municipal rates, dependable holders of inclusive industry opportunities, and you are the true voice of the property industry. As a member-driven organization, we continue to champion conversations around transformation. We air the continuing debate on land expropriation without compensation and the promotion of policies for further education. Fellow captains of industry, we cannot ignore the real issues that we face as a country, ranging from inequality, unemployment, to the lack of gender inclusivity and skills development, all against a backdrop of the country's economic, political, and social volatility. The reality is that these challenges have transcended into the property sector at a very rapid pace. Our adaptation and alignment to the winds of change have become far more critical than ever before. The recent cover that I'm sure many of you might have seen of Time magazine depicting South Africa as the most unequal country globally is a very clear danger signal that our collective industry efforts must focus far more on rapidly reversing the state of affairs. Owing to the very dynamic and ever-changing environment in which we find ourselves, it has become imperative that we strengthen and amplify our industry voices to all the different bodies and stakeholders, to state actors, to partners, to policymakers within this property market. It is with these environmental developments in mind that our conference theme was reworked to speak to these very hard-hitting issues facing us as a real estate sector. So very recently, we changed our theme to Challenging Times, Understanding the Issues, Planning the Future. This program hopefully tries to address these and other issues to ensure that we continue to inspire further development and productivity through achieving specific outcomes. I think we all know that intellectual capital remains key as technological advancements, education, training and development initiatives form part of the backbone of SAPOA and the built environment landscape. Land tenure and title ownership are important to the youth of our country, and they're as important as getting the right education, getting a qualification, and ultimately getting a job. Only by understanding the needs and aspirations of this segment of our youth, of society, can South Africa's journey really come forward. The future depends on this, ladies and gentlemen. Skills development and industry-specific education policies need to take more precedence in our conversations. And we are seeing the positive impact of the commercial property sector bursary funds, forming the umbrella under which organizations are educating the right people, people who want to be in the industry, which can only benefit South Africa and our sector. When I entered this property industry in '98, I came across an individual who had already contributed immensely to this industry, a man who would continue to give selflessly for the betterment of this property sector. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Sol Gumede for spearheading the CPM designation for property and asset managers. The CPM is an international certification issued by the Institute of Real Estate Management in the USA and is a designation that is recognized in the Americas, Asia, Europe, and very proudly now in South Africa as a mark of distinction and professional credibility. IREM, South Africa, Gauteng chapter, is the 15th country and the first in the African continent. May we give Mr. Solkomede a round of applause. Thank you. Part of my role as SAPOA president entailed attending a number of conventions and meetings and engaging with other similar professional organizations, such as the South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners, South African Council of Shopping Centers, the Property Sector Charter Council, Green Building Council of South Africa, Women's Property Network, Business Unity South Africa, and the list goes on. It is very interesting to see that the different focus areas that each organization has, and to realize that we as SAPOA continue to deliver excellent commercial property advocacy at a macro level. The development and elevation of Black women also formed a focal point of my term, naturally. I was honored to be a speaker at several international women in business and leadership conferences around the country and in Africa. It is such lessons on how an industry explores innovation and its support for its probably biggest populace, its women, and its unlikely participants, that we should similarly propel our own property industry, train and support all women and young people to reach for the stars. Member participation on the SAPOA structures remains critical. By associating with one another as individuals, we learn both to discern our common interests and collectively mobilize individual resources to act on these through SAPOA. It is an organization, ladies and gentlemen, that we as an industry gave birth to almost 53 years ago. And so its existence forms part of all of our DNA. As members, we can only make our voices heard through collective action, which success depends on members' contributions of money, time, effort, and skills to common purpose. Your support, be it through attending our events, educational courses, and your payment through membership fees, helps us collectively as an industry to succeed. Working with our CEO, Neil Gopal, and his team has been an amazing experience for me. It has been a privilege to witness the tremendous amount of work that this very small team manages to accomplish. I have thoroughly enjoyed my term with you, Neil and team. Thank you very, very much. Working with the SAPOA board, making sure that financial matters were being dealt with satisfactorily, was an all-round positive experience. And even from an external audit point of view, we've had a favorable review of our finances and controls, which are firmly in place. We have once again had a clean audit, and this, of course, is very gratifying because this is not something to be taken lightly. The board exercises an oversight on how the finances have been spent, and these matters have worked out well. I'd like to thank the board of directors for your commitment and contribution throughout this particular tenure. I hope you're all here. Something I've been fascinated to observe at board meetings, and particularly at National Council meetings during this year, is the sheer volume of work that goes on behind the scenes of the very powerful SAPOA machine. I realize now that this is unfathomable about how we would manage without being able to rely on this industry body, SAPOA, when it comes to monitoring legislation that affects the industry, the town planning issues, educational efforts, marketing and research, and just generally representing all of us in the industry. We have actually fought about 7 key legal cases in this particular tenure and over the last couple of years. And I think it's very important to mention to members that the majority of these have actually been amended. I have great admiration for the people who volunteer their time and share their knowledge and expertise for the benefit of the greater industry through the SAPOA committees. It has been exceptionally enriching to work with the National Council members, and I express my sincere gratitude to all these committee members for their generous contribution in giving of their time to this industry that we all love and care about. I'm equally indebted to my Motsing colleagues who have been a pillar of support and encouragement throughout this year. Thank you for your focus and continued commitment. I would be nowhere without the love and inspiration from my own family, who have supported me on this journey, and I am eternally grateful to them for their love. It is my wish, and was my wish, that by the end of my term, we would have found amongst ourselves some industry answers to provide the greatest market value to our members by asserting our industry as one of the leading anchors of our market economy. A year goes by very, very quickly. A lot has been said and done, but a lot more needs to be said and done well into the future. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the impending future of the property industry remains an exceptionally challenging, but also very rewarding as a contested terrain in our country. I remain hopeful that the industry will continue to embrace the very imminent changes that we're grappling with, and the changes that we wish to see within the property sector that will ensure our relevance and sustainability well beyond my tenure as president. It has been an absolute pleasure to serve you. Thank you.